What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are doing Valentine's Day stories today. We haven't told each other these stories yet. We don't really know what each other's stories are, so we're gonna do some of those.
Do you want to read yours first, or do you want me to read mine first?
You can do yours first.
Me first?
You first.
Can you guess what mine is?
It's about Valentine's Day. How am I supposed to guess? It could be anything.
I know, that's why I said do you.
No, I can't guess.
So, mine is another Reddit no sleep story.
Okay, Miss Obsessed with Reddit No Sleep. Maybe if you stop reading Reddit No Sleep, you'd sleep better.
Was reading them before bed?
Yeah, so maybe you'd sleep better.
I was not reading them before bed.
Oh, you just said I was reading them before
No, I
bed.
said I wasn't reading them before bed.
Oh, misunderstood. You have my listening ears on.
Oh my god. This was 362 days ago, exactly on Valentine's Day. It's called My Town Believed in a Valentine's Day Monster. I've been single my entire life. I don't really mind it, it's just how I've always been. And yet, I still buy Valentine's Day candy and a card every year. That simple thing saves my life. I moved to a small town right before starting high school. It was difficult trying to make new friends and adjusting to an entirely new place at the same time. By the time February rolled around, I was finally feeling as if I'd gotten into the groove of things. I had only made a handful of friends, and to my shock, the first time I was ever asked out on a date was a week before Valentine's Day. I felt awkward going out with a girl who I'd never spoken with before, so I turned her down. She got angry, claiming she had other options and was just being nice. That might be the case, but her extreme reaction confused me. When I was able to, I asked my friend Travis about it. Oh yeah, you die if you're single on Valentine's Day. Get your heart ripped out and everything. So find a girlfriend for the day, he explained, and I scoffed at the idea. Come on, you don't expect me to believe that, do you? I asked, thinking he was just pulling a joke on the new kid. He acted as if he was just giving me some facts. He was looking at me as if I was crazy for not knowing about getting a date or dying. I told him he was crazy, but he just shook his head. It happens every year, someone gets their heart ripped out. It might not be this town, but it's nearby. And it's always someone single. I guess you can risk it, but why? It's just one day, he said, trying to defend his point. Also, I didn't read this before. Just so you know, I haven't read this yet.
Okay.
This was before everyone had a cell phone in their pocket, so I couldn't look up deaths of people missing their hearts right then. I made a note to research it later so I could call him out on his urban legend. I crossed my arms, still not buying what he was saying. That's stupid. Are you saying, what? Someone knows you're single and kills you? I pressed. I can't see him.
Oh, that's sad.
I know. A person doesn't do it. Some sort of monster does. No one has lived after seeing it, but people say they heard drums and found someone without their heart. Travis was again looking at me, as if I should know all of this. A Valentine's Day monster? Really? Well, Christmas has Santa and there's an Easter bunny, so why can't Valentine's Day have something? For the next 10 minutes, I roasted his idea and belief in the Valentine's Day monster. At least he could take it all as a joke, even if he did believe the murderers were real. He wasn't positive a monster was doing it, but couldn't offer up any other reason behind the deaths, and he wasn't risking it. He already had a date lined up with a girl he didn't even like. I still thought the entire idea was dumb. The rest of the school didn't share my outlook. As the day slowly got closer and closer to the fated day, the students got paired up with each other. Some done out of safety, others using the monster as an excuse to finally ask out their crush. I received a few pity offers, but I refused all of them as an act of rebellion against this stupid small town's tradition. I just watched as everyone started dating in fear of death. The store sold out of candy and cards pretty quick. Normally everywhere would be flooded with red and pink products, but the shelves were bare in a few days before the 14th. Now, I refused to accept any offers, and I didn't plan on asking someone out either. The school offered a program where you could buy sweetheart candies to be delivered to class for a small fee. I don't mind getting my new friends one each, all while making up silly names to put on the cards of who they would receive it from. It was only the one thing that was related to the whole day that I gave into. Come out, good girl. She's gonna see someone outside and then start barking. It was the only thing related to the whole day that I gave into, aside from buying a box of chocolates for myself. The chocolates were just a normal box of assorted types from the grocery store that I'd gotten with some money. The chocolates were just a normal box of assorted types from the grocery store that I'd gotten with some money I made from doing chores. When I bought them, the cashier slapped a heart sticker on the box without my permission, a small one for someone to write who the box was meant for. With how crazy this town was over the holiday, I didn't blame her. By that time, I'd been so overexposed to anything Valentine related that just seeing the sticker put me off eating the chocolates. I shoved them in my backpack to forget about them until the 14th was over. I really wish I had taken the entire thing a bit more seriously. It wasn't until the night before Valentine's Day that I finally looked up the murders, finding them to be true. Dread started to form in my stomach as I scrolled through the library computer after school while waiting for my father to pick me up. I didn't find all the mysterious deaths, but enough to make me worried. 3 people were found with their hearts missing. The police said that from the state of their bodies, they were killed on Valentine's Day, even though their bodies weren't found right away. An entire town was warning me about this, and yet I still sat in shock after finding out that it was true. My father finally got me from school, but told me that I needed to walk home the next day. I sat in the car, silently debating on what to do. He just chalked up my distressed state as normal teenage behavior. I didn't sleep that night. I tried thinking of names of students that might not have a date, all while knowing it was useless. When the clock turned midnight, it was officially the 14th, and I nearly had a panic attack, convinced the monster would swoop in and take my heart. The only way I got through that night without a mental breakdown was to shift my train of thoughts back to what it was before looking up the murders. The Valentine's Day monster was stupid. It wasn't real. Some heartless store manager saw the murders and made up the story to sell more products through fear. That was it. That had to be it. I remained awake all night. In the morning, my mother noticed how I looked and offered to let me stay home. I refused, secretly hoping I could find a date if I went to school. The place was abuzz with new couples and gift exchanges. As I walked down the hallway, a few students looked at me with pity in their eyes. Most knew my single stance and how I would be the monster's top choice if it was real. No one went near me that day if they could help it. My few new friends awkwardly tried to find reasons to rush off if I tried talking to them. All of them having temporary new girlfriends gave them a good enough reason to be left out. My candy heart prank wasn't funny. Some thought it was, but I couldn't find the humor in anything that day. Instead, I spent it looking over my shoulder, expecting to hear drums at any second. The final bell rang and Travis was brave enough to walk over to me for a chat. I think he thought this was going to be our last conversation. The idea got him motivated enough to walk over, but not to find the words. Do you, want to come over? I'm going out today, but maybe we can hang out beforehand? There's a really good show, and he trailed off, feeling awkward. It's fine, I'll just chill at home. My parents are going to be out and won't be home until after dinner, so I'll have the entire place to myself. That never happens. They finally think I'm old enough to be trusted to be left alone. I explained, determined to still not believe this nonsense, even though I was terrified. Travis nodded, looking pale. He wasn't brave enough to press me on hanging out. After all, he was certain I was going to die that night. He didn't want to be around to see it. I'll talk to you tomorrow, I said, and gave him a shaky wave. He gave one back and started to hurry over to his new girlfriend. When you're a teenager, everything is a big deal. As I walked away from school towards my home, I felt like I was walking towards my own death. The sky was overcast. It made me feel even more gloomy. I kept mocking myself for my mood as I walked along the neighborhoods that had become familiar to me over the past few months. Finding a small rock, I started to kick it as I walked, trying to take my mind off of the fear in my chest. My car started to drive along behind me with such loud music that I could hear it thumping through the air. I watched it cruise by, a bit annoyed over the sound. If you're gonna blast music, at least play something good and not something that just thudded. As the car kept going down the street, the music went with it, but a hint of the thudding remained. I stopped, confused on why I could still hear the sound if the car was so far. When it finally turned out of sight, I realized the car wasn't the sound of all the noise. My heart started to beat so fast and hard it matched the thudding rhythm that I could swear was getting closer and closer. I didn't look behind me or even get angry at myself for getting scared. I just ran down the street. I should have run up to one of those houses asking for help. I was so frightened and nothing rational came to my mind. I ran like crazy, all while that beating followed. I wish this was a prank, but didn't stop running to find out. My mind was unable to work as my lungs burned from the mad dash. For a moment, I thought I was losing whatever was chasing me. I stumbled, nearly falling over a crooked sidewalk square in front of my house. I couldn't tell how close the thumping sound was over my own heart. Sweat poured down my face and I felt faint. I slammed into my front door, banging on it before I remembered my parents were out. I nearly screamed in frustration. The door was locked and my keys were buried under my books inside my backpack. That thudding sound was all I heard. It was so close it rumbled in my chest. My hands shook as I fumbled to get the zipper open. I was scared to death and couldn't keep my eyes open. My hand brushed against it when a puff of wind came across my face. I smelled something sweet and then the wind came again. To my horror, my mind clued into the fact that it wasn't the wind but something breathing on my face. It was too late. Even if I got my key, I couldn't unlock the door before whatever brought the heart-thumping sound took my heart too. I refused to open my eyes to see the monster I now knew to be real. I love the sound of your heart. It's a shame that it's alone. Let me add it to the others. The voice that spoke wasn't some prank. It was twisted and beyond anything a human could make. My heart was racing. I felt the sharp tip of a claw poke my chest, leaving a small cut through my shirt. A cruel laugh came as I whimpered in fear. With my hand still in my backpack, I felt something that was not my books or a house key, and a crazy idea came to my mind. It was either that or death, so I grabbed a hold of the only thing I could think of. Yanking the box of chocolates from my bag, I held it out to the monster I still refused to see. My voice strained and shaking, I asked it a question I prayed would save my life. Will you be my Valentine this year? My heart nearly beat out of my chest. Opening my eyes a crack, I could see the box in my hand, but not the creature that brought along countless heartbeats that mixed in with my own. I should have died. Instead of clawing my heart out, the twisted hand with razor-sharp nails reached out and took the box. I forced my eyes shut, my entire body shaking. Something brushed my face, causing me to tense up so much it hurt. That clawed finger brushed some hair from my face with another cruel laugh. What a cute child you are. I'll accept this gift this year, but someday I'll be back to claim your heart. I bit down on my own tongue, trying not to scream at that horrible voice. With one final laugh that rattled my bones, the thudding stopped. It took me forever before I gathered up the courage to open my eyes. Nothing was on the front step. I was alone. If it wasn't for the rip in my shirt, I would have thought the whole thing came about due to stress and lack of sleep. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I mean, who would believe me? I went to school for the first half of the day on the 15th. I had barely slept for 2 days and I needed to take the rest of the day off. But I didn't want my friends to think that I died. All of them looked shocked that I'd lived. I said I just got lucky. The school moved on. The short-lived relationships caused by the day fizzed out. As time crept along, I started to dread knowing Valentine's Day was coming yet again. I bought more candy, roses, and a card, expecting a visit from a monster. I should have just gone along and dated someone, but somehow the idea of it was more stressful than dealing with a monster. What was that? I anticipated and feared Valentine's Day, only to have nothing happen. Nothing happens besides the fact that the gifts that I addressed to the creature go missing overnight. As the years carried on, I kept buying different gifts with the same result. As I've gotten older, I've heard those terrible heartbeats faintly on Valentine's Day. Each year the sound gets louder. I think this year is finally going to be when the monster shows itself. Again, I just think asking someone out may save my life, but I think if the monster does show up, I'll ask the question yet again, but this time I'll keep my eyes open. That was it.
That's a decent story.
Yeah, that was interesting actually. I read a couple other ones and they were just like a little bit boring. So yeah, I liked that one. That was interesting to read.
Alright, so mine takes place in 2013. So there's a married couple, Denise and Nathan. They would go frequently on mission trips in Lithuania.
Like for church?
I think so. I didn't really detail it 100%, but I think that's kind of what it was. And so in 2013, they had just arrived back from their most recent mission trip. Denise and Nathan had been missionaries in Lithuania since 1998, and they had spent most of the past 15 years of their marriage between Lithuania and the United States. So they spent a good amount of time there, and then they'd come back to the U.S. And they lived at home with their 3 children and their parents. So pretty full house for the most part. Quite a few people living there. When they were in Lithuania, they traveled through the country starting churches and taking part in Christian outreach efforts.
So yeah, it was for church.
For church, yeah. They even at times would sponsor people to come to the U.S. and go to school. There was one girl, Aina, A-I-N-A. They had sponsored her to come back, and they lived in Peoria, Illinois. The most recent child they had sponsored was Aina. She had come to the U.S. back in 2010 and to attend college. So she started off at Champaign, University of Illinois in Champaign, which is close to Peoria, about an hour away from each other, if that. And then shortly thereafter, she moved to University of Chicago. And so on Valentine's Day in 2013, so Nathan gets home and calls 911 because he just had returned home with their youngest child, and he entered the home through the garage. And after he saw broken glass from a window at the rear of the home and saw some items strewn around, he left the home and called 911 immediately. He figured they had been robbed and he didn't know if anyone was still inside. He waited outside for police to arrive and clear the house. And when they did that, they found Denise's body, and she was dead. The police, after this, had asked the public not to panic, but exercise caution and report anything suspicious. It said, lock your doors, your windows, pay attention to strangers in your area or strange cars. By all appearances, the murder was a robbery gone wrong, and fear swept throughout the community. So, from what the police could tell, it was just a murder or a robbery gone wrong, and they didn't have a suspect. They didn't know if he was going to be robbing other places or what was going on. As time went on, they were investigating more and more, and they started to notice that things just weren't quite right. Things like Nathan walked in, never saw Denise's body, just thought they were being robbed, left, and then stood across the street the whole time and was not surprised when they told him that his wife was dead.
He just reacted like he already knew?
Kind of, yes. And additionally, he said he had arrived home at 3:15, but a neighbor had seen him take Denise's car to a little bit away park and leave the car there in the parking lot at 12:15. And then when they searched the home even further, they eventually got a search warrant. And when they got the search warrant for the home, they found a note in Denise's planner. And the note had said, "I really don't think there's anything I have done or not done to deserve this. I've never been good enough or done enough for you. I know you want me dead. I am not stupid, but I am not that brave. I quit. I will not please you anymore. No more of that game. If I haven't pleased you in 17 years, then nothing I will do it." The rest of the note had alluded to that Nathan was running around with a 20-year-old and humiliating her. And so it turns out that Nathan had been taking trips back and forth to see Anna in Chicago, and the reason she left the University of Illinois to go to Chicago is she got kicked out for having an inappropriate relationship with Nathan. And so Nathan came back and presumed that his wife confronted him or he found the note, one or the other. They don't really know because he denies doing it. They don't really know, but they figured she confronted him or he found the note, and then he decided to kill her and try to stage it to look like a robbery. But the way the glass was broken didn't really look like a robbery. None of the items were stolen, like none of the big ticket items, no stereos, no TVs, nothing was stolen. It was just, and drawers were just taken out, not like thrown on the ground and looked through anything. They were just pulled out and put on the floor. And so
it's probably like, I don't want to clean this up later, so I'm going to be neat about it.
Probably. The jury would find Nathan guilty of murder. It took them just 90 minutes to reach the determination.
Wow.
He was sentenced to 80 years in prison. In handing down the sentence, the judge called Nathan a thief for robbing their children of their mother and taking Denise away from the rest of her family. And I guess luckily Denise's parents were still around. They were living with them, so they were taking care of the kids at this point. But yeah, Denise's parents were able to provide a victim impact statement. They said, "We were repulsed at his calculated evil scheming. He has robbed us of the rest of our daughter's life. We've had to wrestle with Nathan's hypocrisy in claiming to be a man of God." And that is the interesting point. Like, he was sleeping around, and he claims their relationship was not sexual at all. He was just supporting her, but they had a shared bank account that he was providing money for and stuff. Anna had described how Nathan, when she was on trial, Anna took the stand, and they had known Nathan and Denise since she was 6. And so then when she turned 18, Nathan brought her over to the United States to study. She described how Nathan paid for her expenses, took her on trips, went shooting with her, but she said she didn't stay overnight with him. She claimed she never told Nathan she was in love with him, but State Attorney Jerry Brady produced an email from Anna to Nathan in which she promised to work harder at their relationship. It read, "I let you down. From now on, I want to do all that I can for you in this relationship. I'm so blessed to have you in my life." It was revealed that after the murder of Denise, Nathan's parents had told Anna not to speak to the police, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
I don't really know why they would necessarily do that, but a cellmate of Nathan told the jury that Nathan confessed to the murder of Denise. So he confessed to his cellmate. He said that he had waited in the closet for his wife to come home. They had words, and then he shot her in the head. So he got sentenced to 80 years in prison. I think it's interesting that you always choose a fiction story, and I go nonfiction.
Yeah. I just like the creepiness of it. I like people's imaginations, like, in that sense. Okay, well, Navy wants to play really bad, so go ahead and leave a comment which story you liked the best. That's all we have for you today.
But until next time.
We'll see you next week.